Welcome to Teatime on Tatooine, bringing fans together from galaxies far, far away. I'm your host, Anna Trumbo. Something that has been brought up a few times on the podcast so far is the show Rebels, and that it is some of the best Star Wars storytelling in the entire universe. Based on listener feedback, however, it would appear that many of my listeners have never seen it, and some don't even know what it is. With that in mind, I want to dedicate this episode to Rebels and introduce you all to something really special. For those of you who have seen it, I hope you'll enjoy our takes on various themes, plot points, and character development. Think of it as a trip down memory lane. And who knows, maybe it will inspire a rewatch. Warning, understandably there are a fair amount of spoilers in this episode. But even with the spoilers, the show is so enjoyable that I recommend watching it even if you know what's going to happen. At a high level, Rebels, created by Dave Filoni, is an animated show on Disney Plus that came out between 2014 to 2017 and spans the time period of the 4 years leading up to the events in A New Hope. It follows a ragtag group of rebels, disorganized but powerful, and the 15-year-old orphan they pick up from the planet of Lothal, which ends up being a focal location throughout the series. Over the course of 4 years, they become more and more organized, connecting with other rebel cells until they grew into what we now know as the Rebel Alliance. Our heroes include a Twi'lek named Hera, the pilot and de facto parent of the group, her long-term companion and astromech, C-110P, or as he is better known, Chopper, Jedi in exile Kanan, Mandalorian and former Imperial Academy cadet Sabine Wren, the Lasat captain of the Lasan Honor Guard prior to the destruction of his homeworld, Garazeb Aurelios, better known as Zeb, and the Force-sensitive street rat, Ezra Bridger. Think of him as Space Aladdin. Rebels also happens to be my stepdaughter's favorite animated Star Wars show, so she was the logical choice to help me with my analysis and recaps. I'd like to introduce her now, Violet Griffith. Hello!
Hi!
Welcome to Teatime on Tatooine!
Thank you.
It's so nice to have you with us. I know you had to travel quite a ways to get here.
Yeah, about like 15 steps, I think.
Man, that is just dedication to the craft.
Such a hard, long journey.
It's a hard life. We're here today to talk about Rebels, which is your favorite of the animated shows?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. So what I want to do is kind of I would love for this episode to be like I would love for the people who have never seen Rebels to listen to this episode and then want to go watch it. Like that is my goal. So because you and I both watched this multiple times through.
Yeah.
So I think if we can talk through some of the just more interesting character developments and plot points, educate listeners who've never seen it, maybe spark some fun memories for the ones that have seen it, that will be the goal. Does that sound good for you?
Yes, it does.
All right, let's jump in. So let's start talking about some of the characters. Let's start with Ezra. Ezra Bridger is a Force-sensitive teenager living on Lothal, scraping by as a thief and con artist since his parents disappeared when he was 7. He crosses paths with the crew of the Ghost, Hera's ship, and the home of our rebels. Despite his initial distrust, Ezra joins them, driven by a desire to fight against the Empire. Under Kanan's mentorship, Ezra begins his training as a Jedi. Initially, he grapples with his past and learns to trust his new family. By Season 2, Ezra is growing stronger, but also more susceptible to the temptations of the dark side, especially under the influence of Maul. He seeks power to protect his friends, which leads him to make risky decisions. In Season 3, Ezra's struggle with the dark side intensifies, but he ultimately chooses the light, fueled by his love and loyalty for the Ghost crew. As the series progresses, Ezra becomes a key figure in the Rebel Alliance's efforts against the Empire, showing bravery and tactical acumen. While a powerful Force wielder, he is particularly gifted with animals, learning to communicate with them and bring them in as allies. In the series finale, in an act echoing Kanan's heroic sacrifice, which I'll mention again in a little bit, Ezra makes a selfless decision to confront Grand Admiral Thrawn, ensuring the safety of Lothal by sacrificing himself to rid the galaxy of the Imperial threat. and talk about his development from basically like a street thief to a Jedi.
He's just Aladdin.
He's just Aladdin.
He's literally space Aladdin.
Yeah.
Because people even in the first episode call him a freaking street rat.
Yep.
Like, he is literally just Aladdin in Star Wars universe, which I kind of love about him.
Yeah. I mean, what's not to love? He looks a little Aladdin-y with the hair. He's acrobatically jumping from roof to roof of his town, stealing to eat. His arc I really like, and his kind of inheritance of a non-traditional Jedi education, and like flirting and then returning from dark side tendencies.
Yeah.
Is really interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And that education comes from getting into another character, Kanan Jarrus. Kanan Jarrus is a Jedi in hiding who reluctantly takes Ezra on as his Padawan after exhausting all other options. While this is Kanan's fear of failure, Ezra takes it as rejection. As time goes on, however, their relationship deepens and solidifies into a true master-Padawan dynamic. In Season 2, Kanan attains his knighthood during a vision in a Jedi temple, something he was unable to do previously as his training had been cut short by Order 66. About halfway through the series, Kanan is blinded while fighting Maul, formerly Darth Maul, and retreats from everyone around him. Ezra, meanwhile, is slipping into the dark side. It's not until Kanan accepts guidance from a force being called the Bendu that he comes to terms with his new reality, returning to the people who need him and bringing Ezra back from the edge and into the light. In the final season, Kanan sacrifices himself to save the rest of the crew in a heartbreaking display of commitment and love. This impacts Ezra deeply and informs the decisions he makes later in the season, leading up to his own sacrifice to rid the galaxy of the threat of Grand Admiral Thrawn. Jedi in hiding, and how he kind of travels from like being a reluctant teacher to...
Yeah, like kind of being like, I don't want you. We're going to take you to this other Jedi. That Jedi's dead, so I'm stuck with you now. Actually, I'm going to find another Jedi for you. Frick, that person's not willing. Okay. Guess you're stuck with me.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he does kind of put it under a tough exterior, like, you know, you're not disciplined. I'm going to find a better teacher for you. But then we find out that a lot of that's just Kanan's own imposter syndrome and him feeling like he's not a worthy teacher because he never attained the rank of knight. Like he Order 66 called, he was still a teenager. He was still a Padawan. So even though now he's probably in his late 20s, early 30s, he doesn't feel like he's qualified to teach.
And I'm sure he has a huge amount of PTSD too. And he feels like if he were to take on this duty, he wouldn't want Ezra to go through what he went through.
Exactly.
Which is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because he's pushing Ezra away while Ezra's like, well, why don't you want me?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, why?
Yep.
And he doesn't understand what Kanan's been through, and it's just heartbreaking.
And then they really, at the end of season 1, have like a great moment where Kanan thinks that Ezra has been killed. And of course he hasn't, but he, you know, is facing the Grand Inquisitor, and the Grand Inquisitor says something to kind of needle at him. And he says, well, no, now I have nothing left to fear.
That was a mistake. Why? Because you have no one left to die for you.
No, because I have nothing left to fear.
Because the last thing I had to fear was the loss of my Padawan, and now that he's dead, I have nothing to fear. I don't fear you. And he defeats him. And then Ezra is alive, and so it's fine. But they have that nice moment. And then when Kanan is blinded, he like withdraws from everyone again, right at the moment when Ezra needs him most.
Yeah. And
yeah. And again, they like come back together, and that's great. But their arc of, you know, master and apprentice is really compelling.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful one. And then we have Hera. Hera Syndulla is a Twi'lek pilot and the heart of the Ghost crew. Born on Ryloth, she is the daughter of freedom fighter Sham Syndulla. Inspired by her father's resistance against the Empire, Hera becomes a skilled pilot and joins the Rebel Alliance, where she captains the Ghost. Hera's leadership, courage, and dedication to the rebellion are evident as she is always prioritizing the mission and the well-being of her team. She forms strong bonds with each member, particularly Kanan Jarrus, with whom she shares a deep, evolving relationship. In Season 2, Hera's leadership skills are recognized and she is promoted to Phoenix Leader, taking on more significant responsibilities within the growing Rebel Alliance. Season 3 further explores Hera's resilience and determination as she faces numerous challenges, including personal losses and increasing threats from the Empire. In the final season, Hera's dedication to the rebellion is put to the test when she loses Kanan, with whom she had become romantically involved. Pulling herself out of her grief, her spirit inspires those around her as they grapple with the complexities of war. Who is like the glue that holds...
She really is.
So she immediately takes to Ezra as like a member of the crew, long before anyone else does. And Hera is kind of like the conscience of everybody. She's like the Jiminy Cricket on the shoulder.
Yeah.
So then when she has her big loss that we'll definitely talk about and has to deal with that herself, like she is not the rock for everyone else to lean on. So everyone kind of has to deal with it in their own way. And that's really difficult for everyone else to handle because normally Hera would be the one that they can look to for strength.
Yeah.
She's also low-key the best pilot in Star Wars aside from like Anakin and Poe.
Yeah. And I love how she cares for her ship like a child.
Yeah.
She's like, no, we're gonna take the Phantom.
The Phantom is a small shuttle attached to the Ghost, used by the crew for reconnaissance, infiltration, and quick getaways. It can detach and operate independently, allowing for flexible mission strategies. The Phantom is piloted primarily by non-Hera members of the Ghost crew, principally Ezra Bridger.
We're not gonna let the Ghost do this thing, or where the heck is the Phantom? Like, what's going on?
Yes. Sabine. Sabine Wren is a teenage Mandalorian artist and explosives expert who becomes a vital member of the Ghost crew. Formerly a cadet at the Imperial Academy, she left after discovering the Empire's cruel intentions, which led her to becoming a rebel. Throughout the show, Sabine struggles with her past and her Mandalorian heritage, ultimately reclaiming her family's legacy by wielding the Darksaber and uniting the Mandalorians against the Empire. Kanan Jarrus trained her briefly in lightsaber combat and the ways of the Jedi, so she took Kanan's loss particularly hard. This loss deepened her bond with Ezra, cementing them in a chosen siblings sort of way. In the series Coda, she embarks on a mission with Ahsoka Tano to find Ezra Bridger, who disappeared during the final battle against Grand Admiral Thrawn. Who's your favorite character?
Yeah, she is. I love the fact that she's like a teenager and she gets to be like give her opinion of things in the way of the fact that like she's a Mandalorian. Like we at that like time period we didn't get to really see a lot of Mandalorians go through like stuff. Like
we saw some in the Clone Wars, but not really as heroes.
No, they were all like, we're going to take back Mandalore and we're going to kill everyone who stands in our way. And if you're not agreeing with this, then we're going to go to war with each other and then we're going to kill each other. Like,
and they were their biggest rivals of Mandalorians that we saw were the other Mandalorians. Like there was the Mandalorian leadership, which was Satine, and she was peaceful and wanted to remain neutral and create a new type of Mandalore. And then the only warrior type Mandalorians that we saw were set up to oppose her.
Yeah.
So this is the first time that we're seeing a different kind of warrior type of Mandalorian that's not like loot and pillagey.
Yeah, and I love that we get to see her and like Ezra and Zeb like messing around, like when Chopper takes out the bolts in the bunker.
Yes.
And she decides to paint it on their walls. Like that's like it's so cute. And like you get to see Sabine and Ezra's relationship grow because he was like, oh, she's like really cute. Like,
yeah, you definitely had a crush on her in the beginning.
Definitely, like, oh, I'm Ezra, and he's like, I'm Sabine, by the way. Like, what the heck? And then you get to see them grow.
Like that.
Yeah, and then you get to see them grow into like siblings and how they like care for each other in that way.
And that's what makes, for me, their reuniting in the Ahsoka series so powerful is like, and I don't know why this is to me, but it's more moving to me having them be as brother and sister than it would be if they were a romantic.
Yeah.
Because it's really more like, this is my family.
Mm-hmm. And how much she went after him in that sense of finding him. And
she sacrificed potentially the future safety of the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Like Ahsoka was saying, I mean, because of her, Thrawn returned.
Yeah.
But she made that sacrifice to get to Ezra.
Mm-hmm.
And we know in true Star Wars fashion, there will be some sort of happy ever after. We know that Thrawn doesn't win fully at the end of the day. I mean, we'll see where Dave Filoni like takes the series and the movies that are coming out. But yeah, that's love, man. That's love. Let's see who else we've got. Oh, Zeb. We've got Garazeb Aurelius. Garazeb Aurelios, otherwise known as Zeb, is a formidable Lasat warrior and a key member of the Ghost Crew. A former captain of the Lasan Honor Guard, Zeb suffers from the traumatic loss of his people when the Empire devastates his home world of Lasan. Throughout Rebels, Zeb grapples with his survivor's guilt and a thirst for vengeance against the Empire. Despite his tough exterior, he becomes a loyal friend and protector of his new family. In a pivotal arc, Zeb plays a crucial role in discovering the legendary new homeworld of the Lasat, Lyrasan, providing hope and a future for his scattered people. Zeb's journey is one of redemption and finding a new purpose amidst the fight against the Empire.
Or Captain Mayluran.
Or Captain Mayluran.
General Mayluran.
General Mayluran. I mean, he has, when we meet him, he has a chip on his shoulder, like understandably, because his people had been wiped out in a planet-wide genocide.
Yeah.
And there's another character that we've talked about called Agent Kallus.
Mm-hmm.
This was something we were talking about yesterday, that in The Rise of Skywalker, you have General Hux, who reveals himself as the resistance spy.
I am the rebel spy.
I am the spy.
I'm the spy.
And his whole reasoning is, I don't want to see you win. I want to see Kylo Ren lose.
What the?
And it's so petty, and it's so
like, well, I don't care who ends up winning as long as my arch enemy loses, because
Yes.
I hate him.
because I don't like him.
And I want his position.
Because he broke my toys on the playground.
Yeah,
and
like-
he bullied me. So now I'm going to, yeah, it's very silly. But to be fair, you know, in speaking with people who have worked on the film, there was so much that they were trying to get into such a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Having some backstory about what brings Hux to defect, there just wasn't time
Yeah.
to put it in there. And I
I
understand
bet
that.
it was an amazing movie, but I feel like if they had fit anything else in there, I would have been crazy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But then you have Kallus, so Kallus is an agent of the Empire, and
Mhm.
he and Zeb, through some misadventure, end up stranded on a moon together, and Kallus is injured, and Zeb very begrudgingly helps him,
Mm-hmm.
even though he was there for the destruction of Zeb's planet and people.
Which he makes very clear.
He also confesses that he didn't know that they were about to genocide the planet. So like he
Yeah.
wasn't on board for that part of it. And they leave that situation with like a grudging respect for each other. And you see, I mean, it takes like 2 seasons for Kallus to start to come around, and ultimately we find out that he defects.
But he still
But
didn't get rid of those sideburns.
He still doesn't. Oh no, he like full Wolverines.
Yeah.
I'm so here for it. I love it so much. It's fantastic. But like he and Zeb developed this really like special bond as 2 warriors, as 2 soldiers.
Mhm.
Who I think he ends up envying Zeb because he knows Zeb fights for something he believes in, and Kallus is more and more or less and less believing in the Empire,
Yeah.
and realizes like how lucky Zeb is to believe in what he's fighting for. And I think that's, I don't want to badmouth episode 9, but movies are constrained to a really short period of time. With a TV show, you can take so much more time with something and let it.
I mean, like, One Piece had like 137 something seasons.
Yeah, there's like
Seasons.
700 episodes.
Yeah. Star Wars, I feel like people would love that if they just ran on with seasons, but like movies, they're all different styles.
They're all different styles, and you are constrained by a time frame.
Yeah.
Like, you really just can't have
Like
an 8-hour movie.
You know. I mean, Clone Wars went on for like
7 seasons.
Yeah, 7 seasons. And if they would have kept going with that, people would have watched every single second.
I mean, arguably the Bad Batch was the continuation of Clone Wars, just following a smaller group of clones.
Mm-hmm.
And then they ended that after 3 seasons, and I want more.
Yeah.
I
just continue with that.
Just
please.
continue it. I know.
What about Omega's journeys?
I know. I mean, we know where she ends up, at least when she's a young adult, but what happens after that?
Yeah, like what's going on?
I know. I want to see her. It would be fun to see live action Omega in some sort of rebel fighter pilot spin-off.
Yeah.
Where it's like her, it's Wedge, who's a young recent he defected from the Imperial Academy.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Sabine, who's also a strong pilot. All the other young pilots of the rebellion.
Totally.
Like, I want that live action.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's see, where are we next? Chopper. Chopper, also known as C1-10P, which, when you write it out, appears to spell chop, is the grumpy yet loyal astromech droid of the Ghost Crew. Originally serving in the Clone Wars, Chopper was rescued and repaired by Hera Syndulla, forging a deep bond with her. Known for his cantankerous personality, Chopper provides comic relief, often in the form of his highly unethical and aggressive behavior. His skills in hacking, piloting, and combat support the crew in countless missions against the Empire. He also commits several war crimes, including killing surrendering enemies, fighting an enemy while wearing their uniform, using a weapon of mass destruction, destroying a civilian infrastructure, torturing people, and so forth. Some on the internet put his estimated kill count at over 50,000. While unintelligible to those who don't understand his beeps and boops, he somehow sounds like he's always swearing. Despite his gruff exterior, Chopper shows genuine care for his friends, repeatedly risking his circuits to protect them.
Oh my gosh, the diva of the group.
The diva of the group. The one who is so, talk about petty.
Oh my god.
I mean, they find another droid that's kind of astromechy, and they're like, oh yeah, let's take him. Let's have him join the crew. And Chopper straight up
pushes him off the ship mid-air.
Yep, pushes him right out of the ship. While they're still in the atmosphere, so they're not in zero gravity, that droid just falls to the planet. Yes.
Bye.
And now, because it's a Disney show for kids, when the droid, we do see him fall and not splinter into a million pieces, and he falls, and I think a Loth cat like hops out. We know he's okay.
Yeah.
When in reality, that droid just would have been smashed into smithereens.
Yeah.
And Chopper don't give a, what, does not care.
No.
So he's a spicy meatball.
And we're going to talk about Jason next, because I have a few things.
Oh yeah, we can go ahead and cut it. So yeah, we can cut forward to Jason.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Jason annoys me so freaking much. Yeah.
I get why people are, I guess I kind of get why people are annoyed at Jason, but I'm like, let him live, man. He's got green hair. It must be hard enough to deal with.
Also, like, that kid probably has so much PTSD from flying on his mom's ship.
Yeah.
Like, and being, like, shot at. Like,
being shot at, and also being in space watching two different X-Wings as part of that squadron be vaporized in that hyperspace ring.
Yeah.
Like feet away from him. That's irresponsible parenting. Sorry, Hera. Love you.
Yeah, but we're going to call it child support services.
I am, and I'm a big proponent of saying Star Wars is a fantasy. It's not true science fiction. It doesn't follow the rules of physics. It doesn't follow, and that's fine. That's what it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. But there is the other devil's advocate part of me that's like, I would love to be a Star Wars universe geneticist and be like, so what happens when a Twi'lek and a human have a baby? It looks like a human, but the skin color of the Twi'lek is transposed onto the human child's hair.
Yeah,
So, I know it's a fantasy, but there's definitely like a...
Wait, what?
That's a
kind
weird...
Yeah. Like, even if they... Because we also get to see that one clone who branched off and had his family with a Twi'lek.
Well,
and they were skin-colored Twi'leks.
No, those were his adopted kids. Because those kids were like 6 and 8 years old.
Okay.
And this was a year into the Clone Wars. So he found a single mom.
Okay.
Yeah, just time-wise, it doesn't add up.
Weird. Okay.
But they could have had like a, her father was kind of beige colored. Hera's father, and maybe this kid could have had like less long hair, had tentacles, or had hair and little leku, I think they're called.
I mean, doesn't she have like those pointy ears?
Yes,
those even could have just had.
Those are female ears, though, because the Twi'leks have, the males have regular ears. It's a whole thing. They talked about it in the book of Boba Fett. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. It's dumb. I know. It's not dumb, but it's pretty in the
But
weeds.
I like vaguely remember seeing him at the end of Rebels, Jason, and
for like a second.
Yeah, I could have sworn he was a Twi'lek. My brain, I don't know what the heck
was a little green-headed boy.
But like even then, like that was what I thought he looked like, and then I saw him in the live action. I was like, wait, who the heck is this kid? And then I went back and I saw it, and I was like, even then, it still looked different to me. It was
he had shorter hair. It was brighter green, and then the tips of his ears they made green, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yeah, they did.
Which was another interesting choice.
Yeah, but they didn't do that in the live action.
Well, also his hair is a little longer. I think it covers his ears. So, like, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Who knows?
I feel
we're gonna need some debunking.
There
okay?
is some, there are some kind of bothersome things about him, but I also feel bad for that kid. It's like, oh man, give Jason a break.
Yeah.
But let's see. So there were some different like story arcs and themes I wanted to touch on. First of all, the family dynamics and relationships as part of the Ghost crew.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
I feel like Chopper, no offense to my little brother, is just that annoying little brother. I'm not saying my little brother's annoying at all. I'm saying he is that annoying little brother who is just like picky about everything in every possible way.
He takes everything really personally.
Being like, wah, wah, wah. Like, no. And he like is such like a drama queen, and like Hera and Kanan definitely like mom and dad figures in this way. Ezra would be one of the younger little brothers.
Yes.
I'd say probably Sabine would be older than Zeb, and the fact that she's more responsible. But
yeah, even though Zeb is, I believe, older, literally, but maybe
doesn't he
not
have like
as mature.
he has a beard too? Like,
yeah,
like a mini
beard.
chin beard.
But also, we don't know how aging works. Like Grogu is 50 years old, and
that's weird to think about. Can we just keep him as a baby?
Yeah. I mean, Frodo was 50 years old in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's weird to think about Frodo, though.
It is.
But yeah,
we're
like
mixing franchises, but
yeah, we definitely are. But yeah, Hera and Kanan definitely the cornerstones in the family. Like if one thing is happening with one person in this group, they are going after that problem.
They're on it, and everyone in that group has been maybe not literally orphaned, but orphaned in one way or another. Like Hera feels like her father chose the cause over her. Kanan was, watched his master die in front of him and had to run away. Ezra's parents disappeared. He didn't know if they abandoned. It turns out they did not abandon him, but he didn't know one way or the other. Sabine kind of exiled herself because she felt responsible for, something bad that had happened. And Zeb lost his entire planet pretty much.
Genocide.
So they're more than a crew. They really are a family.
They definitely are.
I love it. It's wonderful. There's also the Jedi path. And you and I have talked about this a lot, but like Kanan's training was never completed. And he never attained the rank of knight. It's something that occurs during a vision while they're in a temple. So his training for Ezra is unorthodox. And what I believe is it heralds in what I could imagine would be like the new generation of Jedi. And while we know what happens with Luke's temple and the way he trains Ben Solo in a more strict way, I hope that Dave Filoni lets Ezra teach some people in this less traditional way, because Ezra, Jedi are supposed to not have, you know, emotional connections
at all.
Yeah. I mean, feelings, yes, they're supposed to have compassion, but like they're not supposed to be emotionally connected. Ezra's main motivation in everything that he does is for his family, his found family, his crew. And that, interestingly enough, is what takes him away from his descent into the dark side. So his love and his connections and his, you know, everything that the Jedi say he shouldn't be doing, that is what saves him from the dark side.
Yeah, it's definitely like opening new doors for new Jedi, because being taught in this way of you're not allowed to feel any emotion whatsoever, you can't do certain things, rules, there's always going to be that lurking curiosity of, well, what if I did?
Yeah, and those kind of rules really do allow it's sort of, you know, things that can't bend will break, right? And that happened to Anakin very clearly. And it could have happened with Ezra, it didn't. And you see around the same time as the Ahsoka show, it give or take a few years, like Luke is training Grogu and says you have to choose. You can choose this Mandalorian, like the emotional attachment that you have to this person, or you can choose to be a Jedi. You cannot have both. And we know which way he goes. He picks the Mandalorian, his dad.
Yeah,
now,
it was so cute.
Din Grogu. But I don't think we've seen the last of Grogu and his Jedi path.
No.
And I would love for him to come across Ezra and for Ezra to be like, nah, man, you want to be a Jedi? You can still be a Jedi. Look at me, I'm a Jedi. I love my family. I've got emotional attachments out the wazoo. Let's make we've got Professor Huyang over here. Let's make you a lightsaber. That's what I want to see. And there's certain things that get established in Star Wars canon that are really interesting and I want to explore, and then they kind of just get swept under the rug. Yeah. And I don't want that to be one of those things. I want to see a non-traditional route for Jedi.
I want it to be like Darth Jar Jar.
Darth Jar Jar, yes. and it would be actually really cool if that was what happens in the Rey movie, where Rey is, training new generation of Jedi. I want her to take it and make it her own and maybe learn from the mistakes of the Jedi Order that fell spectacularly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
It is a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy how deep you can go through things. Like, they literally created full histories of everything.
And one of my favorite characters in the whole franchise is Darth Maul, and we get more of him in Rebels. Well, this is the first place for a lot of people that they meet the Inquisitors, the former Jedi who have fallen to the dark side and are now Jedi hunters. We see plenty of Darth Vader. We see a really epic showdown between Darth Vader and Ahsoka.
Yeah, that
had us both
made me
crying. Yes. What is her line? I
was beginning to believe I knew who you were behind that mask, but it's impossible. My master could never be as vile as you.
Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him.
Then I will avenge his death.
Revenge is not the Jedi way.
I am no Jedi.
And then we're all just like,
and you're just, the pain.
Yeah, oh my God.
But Maul is he's just this broken shell. He was rejected by the Jedi. He was not, that's part of, I guess, his backstory is that he resented the Jedi for never picking him as a child.
Oh.
They never came for him. And he was a force sensitive kid. So, and I think that was something that Palpatine put into his head to make him hate the Jedi. I don't think he didn't get there on his own. And then everyone thought he died. he didn't die. Palpatine abandoned him, never went looking for him to see if he was
Yeah.
if
I mean,
he could
Obi-Wan
salvage him.
Kenobi literally cut him in half.
Yes.
Like, it didn't seem like he would be alive from that.
True, but Obi-Wan Kenobi also basically cut Anakin in half, and Palpatine went and roasted him alive, and Palpatine went and got him.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
And now
So
Vader's
he's got
just this cyborg of a dude.
Yep. But
walking
like,
around.
well, so's Maul. I mean, his whole bottom half is cyborg.
Didn't
but
he have like
he is-
spider legs at one point?
He did. He went crazy
Yeah,
in a
that-
junk pit.
That
and
that was weird.
built himself spider legs.
No! you don't know. You don't know anything.
He keeps trying, and every time he gets close to succeeding, he, falls back. It's very Sisyphean, and his end is very tragic. And he gets, cut down by Obi-Wan for good this time. And even at the end, when he's dying in Obi-Wan's hands or arms, he still doesn't get the point. Like, he asks, is he the chosen one? Obi-Wan says yes about Luke. And then Maul says he will avenge us. And Obi-Wan, you can see, is kind of devastated by that, because he's like, you still don't get it.
Yeah.
You
Like,
it's such a tragic figure, but also
and that yell in the desert.
Kenobi.
Kenobi!
Like, I can't do that. Like, my voice would like crack. Like, Kenobi.
I mean, his voice does crack. It's this.
Yeah, but it's more of like a anger yell of like, dude, where the F are you? Like,
Oh yeah,
come on.
I'm gonna put it in the episode.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that is a good one. Let's see what else we've got here. The Mandalorian culture aspect is really interesting. Sabine's journey with the Darksaber. Everyone who's seen The Mandalorian, we've seen Mandalore as a ruined wasteland, which is uninhabitable. And those who've seen Clone Wars saw Mandalore at its peak, so like a bustling metropolis with wealth and resources. And this gives us a glimpse into like the devastation wrought on the Mandalorian people by the Empire's divisiveness and like the beginning of the decline of their culture and society. And everything's fracturing.
Yeah.
It was really interesting.
And I mean, the weapon that was used against Mandalore was the Duchess.
While still a cadet at the Imperial Academy, Sabine designed a devastating weapon known as the Duchess. This weapon, named after Duchess Satine of Mandalore, was engineered to target the unique Beskar alloy in Mandalorian armor. The Duchess could superheat the Beskar, causing it to incinerate the wearer from within the armor. Originally intended to impress her superiors, Sabine became horrified when the Empire used the Duchess against her own people, causing immense suffering and death among the Mandalorians. Racked with guilt, Sabine later worked tirelessly to destroy the weapon and redeem herself, eventually succeeding in disabling and dismantling it, ensuring it could no longer be used against the Mandalorians.
She was put into so much ruin from that. And also,
But she didn't know it was going to be used against.
No, she had no idea. That was just her being like, well, I mean, I can create this thing and I'm going to show you what I can do. And Bo-Katan being like, you named the weapon after my sister?
That's right. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah. She was like, well, I mean, that was the first name that came to mind. Like, the Duchess sounds like a kind of badass
Well, and also
name.
when you're young and talented, there's a lot of pride and ego that comes with that. So when someone is like, I'll bet you can't do this thing, you're like, well, watch me, hold my beer. And that's what she did. And she built this thing that she was then turned around to use against her people. And that's part of why she like flees and exiles herself, because of the shame of that. But she never meant to.
No, it was just out of her being like, well, I can actually do this and watch me.
Exactly. We have to take a quick break, but we will be right back with more tea time on Tatooine. Attention, citizens of Lothal.
This is Governor Pryce with an urgent announcement. Just days ago, a rebel attack on our Imperial factory resulted in significant damage to our production capabilities. This act of sabotage not only delays our efforts to provide essential resources to the Empire, but also endangers the lives of innocent workers and threatens our safety. Effective immediately, a mandatory curfew will be imposed from sundown to sunrise. Those found in violation of this curfew without proper authorization will be subject to arrest and severe penalties. This measure will ensure the security of our planet. To those who might sympathize with these rebels, let me be clear. These insurgents do not care about Lothal or its people. They are driven by their own selfish agenda, seeking to spread chaos and disrupt the order that the Empire has brought to our world. Harboring or abetting these criminals is an act of treason against the Empire and will be met with the harshest consequences. I urge all citizens to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity to Imperial authorities immediately. If you have any information about the rebels or their activities, do not hesitate to come forward. The Empire will not tolerate these acts of rebellion, and we will take every measure necessary to bring these criminals to justice. Together, we can stand against this threat and secure a peaceful and prosperous future for Lothal. Trust in the Empire, and we will prevail. This is Governor Pryce, reminding you that your safety and security are our top priority. Long live the Empire.
So there's a lot of world building and new species and places that we get. Like we get Lothal, which is a new planet for us, and it's not a desert, which is kind of refreshing.
Yeah.
And we get a bunch of different force sensitive animals, which is really interesting. We have the Loth cats and the Loth-wolves.
The
Loth-wolves are mystical, force-sensitive creatures native to the planet Lothal. These enigmatic wolves are deeply connected to the planet's natural force energy and play a crucial role in guiding and protecting Ezra Bridger and his friends. Loth-wolves possess the ability to travel vast distances almost instantaneously, navigating through a mysterious realm known as the World Between Worlds. They communicate cryptically, often through telepathy, and embody the will of the Force. The Loth-wolves share their habitat with the smaller, equally intriguing Loth cats. These curious and playful feline creatures are also attuned to the Force, often appearing at pivotal moments to assist or guide Ezra. Together, the Loth-wolves and Loth cats represent a deep, mystical connection between Lothal and the Force, highlighting the planet's unique significance in the Star Wars galaxy. The Loth-wolves are straight up just like Force creatures.
Yeah, the like doom.
They can travel through the planet at remarkable speed while carrying people on their back. Like they're just, Rebels does this really well, and they do this when they get to the World Between Worlds. The World Between Worlds is a mystical realm introduced in Rebels. Discovered by Ezra within an ancient Jedi temple on Lothal, this dimension exists outside of time and space, filled with pathways and portals that connect different moments across the galaxy's history. In the series, Ezra uses the World Between Worlds to save Ahsoka Tano from a fatal duel with Darth Vader, highlighting the realm's profound and dangerous power to alter events. Guided by the voices of past Jedi and the Loth-wolves, Ezra learns that the World Between Worlds is deeply connected to the Force and the fate of the galaxy. The Emperor, seeking to exploit its power, tries to gain access to the realm, but Ezra, realizing its potential for misuse, ensures the temple's destruction to keep it out of the Emperor's hands. While the temple was destroyed, the realm remained. The World Between Worlds remains one of the most mysterious and pivotal elements in Star Wars, symbolizing the intricate weave of destiny and the Force. The drawing of the wolves kind of comes to life on the side of the temple and creates a portal for Ezra to go through. And you realize, like, right, the Force is magic. That's right.
It is just straight up magic.
And that is when you're reminded that this is a fantasy.
Yeah.
Like,
before that you're like, magic. Oh well, that'd be cool if we could like do that, and then it's just like, oh, it's a freaking portal in the middle.
Well,
of the
and
planet.
now time travel is a thing because 2 years into the future, Ezra pulls Ahsoka right out of that fight with Darth Vader 2 years prior.
Yeah, to save her.
And pulls her into the future, literally, which is wild to me.
I was honestly confused. It's like, wait, what just happened? And then I think you explained to me, I'm like, oh my God, like that just, what? Like we hadn't really gotten a glimpse of any of that.
Well, and we've watched the fallout of, or the episode where she fights Darth Vader a bunch of times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, there's a lot of like really, really dramatic music. Kanan is dealing with the fact that he's blind.
Mm-hmm.
Ezra now has the Sith holocron. He looks up and his eyes are red because the Sith holocron is talking to him, all sorts of dark side-ish.
Yeah.
But, and this is, I'm talking through this now because it's something I still don't have an answer for, and I think I'm starting to understand, is we see the Sith temple falls apart, that big battle station. Darth Vader walks out of the ruins. And yes, he's limping and his mask is like shattered, half broken. So he's not doing so hot, but he's walking out of there. He's okay. And then there is a shot of Ahsoka like walking into a dark, it looks like her walking into a dark place. And her bird, Morai, that like kind of owl creature, is there. And that's always around when Ahsoka's going to show up. And so I'm thinking, okay, at the end of the second season, when you see that and you see, it looks like she's walking into a dark place, but you're not sure. And I go, did she survive?
Or was it just like her forced soul?
Or was it her forced soul? So then did she die and then Ezra changed her future by pulling her out? Or, and this is something that just occurred to me now, maybe, so the world between worlds exists outside of time.
Yeah.
Like all time is happening at once. No time is happening. It's a truly magical place. So when Ezra pulls Ahsoka out into the world between worlds, she does not exit the temple with him.
No.
She goes into another door. So maybe when she goes into another door, she exits at the same time she was pulled out of, chronologically, like 2 years prior. And so at the end of, back 2 seasons, at the end, when we see her walking into darkness, like it looks like a cave or something, I can't quite remember. But when we see her walking out, maybe that is her after she's walked out of the world between worlds. But I'm thinking maybe she was pulled out. She's with Ezra. They're talking in the, magical place. She walks through another portal, but maybe that's where she ends up, is back in the past. So for her, she lives time the way everyone else does. Like
that would make sense, because then she doesn't just skip 2 years of her life.
Yes, and it explains why we see her walking away from that devastation.
Yeah.
And I think I think I get it now.
I mean, if she hadn't been pulled out, wouldn't they still have been fighting?
Well, she might have been crushed in the
good
big
point.
blast. One of your dad's issues was like, we saw Ahsoka walk away into like a dark. So now I'm thinking Dave Filoni probably had a plan, knew what was going to happen, and was like, I'm going to give this little hint to maybe we haven't seen the last of her, and then comes back to it in the world between worlds. Wow. I think I get it now.
That's so deep.
I know.
That's very crazy.
It is a lot. I also like, going back to the kind of Loth-wolf stuff, the exploration of the Force beyond the Jedi and Sith, the Loth-wolves, but also the Bendu.
The Bendu is a mysterious and ancient Force-sensitive being introduced in Rebels. Residing on the planet Atollon, the Bendu represents the middle path of the Force, balancing the light side and dark side without aligning with either.
I'm the one in the middle, the Bendu.
Encountered by Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger, the Bendu offers profound wisdom and guidance, helping Kanan come to terms with his blindness and deepen his understanding of the Force. The Bendu's enigmatic nature and immense power make him a formidable presence. He intervenes during critical moments, such as the Battle of Atollon, demonstrating his ability to command the elements and influence the outcome of events. The Bendu's teachings emphasize the importance of balance and understanding the Force beyond traditional Jedi and Sith perspectives, adding a unique and philosophical dimension to the series.
Oh, the Bendu.
Like, what the heck is the Bendu? He's not the light. He's not the dark. He just is the Force.
Yeah, which I was so confused. But
he looks like a boulder covered in mushrooms.
Yeah, like
but he becomes a storm.
Yeah. And then Thrawn tries to kill him, but he's shooting at the storm.
Well, he shoots at the storm, and then he sees after all is said and done, the rebels have gotten away. After they're pretty much for sure going to die, they escape, and Thrawn sees Bendu in his physical form on the ground, and they have a back and forth.
You cannot see, but I can.
What do you see?
I see your defeat, like many arms surrounding you in a cold embrace.
And Thrawn shoots him with the blaster, and then we cut to the ground, and there's nothing there.
Yeah. Also,
he's gone. But not only is he gone, you hear laughter in the air.
Also, in what world is Thrawn living in? A single blaster is gonna kill the Force?
Well, he hasn't explained himself to Thrawn. Thrawn doesn't know what he is. All he knows is that he's mystic. I also think, so Thrawn is a big fan of things that are mystic, but Bendu says something that gets under his skin, which is not easy to do.
No.
Him blasting Bendu is a little out of character for him, but I think he's been pushed to a dark place. He also was he was assured of his victory, and it was taken from him. So he's not the logical, cool, and calculating Thrawn in that moment that we know and love.
Yeah. Well, love.
I love Thrawn.
Grand Admiral Thrawn, originally introduced in the expanded universe novels of the 90s by Timothy Zahn, makes his canon debut in Rebels. Thrawn, a Chiss from the unknown regions, is known for his brilliant tactical mind, strategic genius, and unyielding determination to crush the Rebel Alliance. In Rebels, he is brought in by the Empire to dismantle the growing rebellion on Lothal and beyond. Thrawn's meticulous nature and deep understanding of his enemies' cultures and art make him a unique and formidable adversary. Throughout the series, he consistently outmaneuvers the Ghost Crew, pushing them to their limits. His calculated and often ruthless approach contrasts sharply with the more impulsive tactics of the rebels. Despite his efforts, Thrawn is ultimately thwarted by Ezra Bridger in a dramatic confrontation that leads to both characters disappearing into the unknown regions. Thrawn's presence in Rebels revitalizes his character for a new generation, cementing his legacy as one of the most iconic villains in the Star Wars saga, as well as one I have very complex feelings about and will most definitely be dedicating episodes to in the future.
Okay.
Thrawn is my favorite.
I'm happy for you, but
yes,
those eyes freak me out, and his voice being we're going to capture them all.
One of these days I'm going to get you to read some of the Thrawn books.
I started reading them.
He's
I got
amazing.
5 pages in.
There's 5 whole pages. Oh my gosh.
I know.
He is so incredible. I want to do so many episodes just about Thrawn. And my difficulty with making him the big bad, because I don't view him as being evil. His ulterior motive is that he is trying to protect the area outside of the galaxy and the galaxy from evils worse than the Empire. And he has stated that.
But
so he's if I have to join, he's I know the Empire has problems, but this is the most powerful force that I can be part of right now. And I know that there are evils out there worse. And if this is the force that if I can get to a high enough place of authority and power within the Empire, I can then bring this power to bear against these external forces that threaten his planet, which is outside of the realm of the galaxy and the galaxy itself. Because he's once they come for my planet and destroy us, they're going to come for the galaxy. And it's it's really fascinating. So it just seems
I guess
very...
it makes sense, because even the Jedi Order isn't as strong as the Empire in the sense of the amount of power that they have.
And they're so organized.
They're very organized.
That's the thing about fascists. They're good at organizing.
Yeah.
They're very efficient.
Mm-hmm. A little too efficient.
A little too efficient. But like just having him come back and be the heir to the Empire and want to overthrow the New Republic just so he can reinstate a new empire, it just seems a little reductive. So I'm hoping they widen that scope, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
What they do. I love Thrawn. I'm a Thrawn stan. What can I say? Thrawn and Rex are my guys.
Yeah. I mean, Rex makes sense. I like Rex too.
Another fun thing about Rebels that we get are cameos and appearances from familiar characters. Like we see Leia as like a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
And she's clearly very capable and very competent, but she is trying to step into her father's shoes. And her father's still around at this point, but like she's trying to rise to the occasion and trying to prove herself, but she's also still really young. She and Ezra are the same age. But we see Leia, we see Lando a few times. He drops in from time to time to flirt with Hera and cause a little damage and then saunter off sexily with his cape.
Okay.
Violet was silently laughing. She's turning red. Well, he is. He's, ooh, what have we here?
Oh.
Hello, what have we here?
God,
hello,
no.
Hera. Captain Syndulla, your ship is your piloting skills are truly unmatched.
And I am truly disgusted.
Violet is disgusted. Violet is not impressed. And Kanan is not impressed. Kanan is just turns into like,
who the fuck are you?
Yeah, stop talking about women.
Excuse me?
I mean, Hera's not fully taken in by it. So,
no.
You know, unlike Ezra, who is, if there's a smuggler or a pirate, Ezra wants to be their best friend.
Literally. Like
Hondo.
I'm Jabba the Hutt.
Call me Jabba.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Jabba. I'm a big fan of Ezra's choice of friends in Hondo, in Vizago.
Mm-hmm.
If they're morally questionable, Ezra's like, you're my
like,
bud.
hello, oh my
you're
gosh, it's so nice to meet you.
I trust you. I mean, he does that with Maul the second he meets.
Yeah,
I mean, he's initially a little distrustful, but it's less you give me a bad vibe and more just your typical stranger danger.
Mm-hmm.
But then once
and he's like, oh my gosh, you're so cool. and then Kanan's like, dude, what are you doing?
Well, also Maul gives him more autonomy. Kanan's very much like, oh, you know, don't touch that, don't do that. Gid treats him a little more like a kid, but Maul treats him more as a peer, and I think that is something Ezra is hungry for and immediately like connects to. But we also see Mon Mothma, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Rebels also had a big influence on future Star Wars content. So it paved the way for shows like The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch.
Mm-hmm.
It gave us such a rich background for Mandalorians, building on what had already been created by the Clone Wars. It's a great counterpoint to present day Mandalorian remnant and how scattered and roving they became, how segregated the various sects had become, even though they'd been kind of tribal earlier on. But it also gives us a destination for the characters of Rex, Gregor, and Wolf when we meet them and they're like slinging for jupas in the desert.
Yeah.
Just like the three grumpy old men.
Like it's the equivalent of fishing.
It's the equivalent of fishing, but they use Zeb as bait, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because everyone's kind of horrified about it, except Zeb, who's like, oh, kind of, anyway. But it allows Bad Batch to then fill in those gaps and like reintroduce us to Gregor and Wolf and continue the story of Rex because they know that they're all going to end up together. And what else? And it leads kind of directly into Rogue One, which is fun, especially over the loudspeaker, you hear someone. That's a fun.
Also, don't we get to see the ghosts in the background of a fight
in The Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah, when they're all like hyperspacing in, and you see the ghosts like pop up in the middle of nowhere, and then you're like, like
a very select few people in the audience freaked out, and no one else knew why they were freaking out. Like, it's just a bunch of ships. That is one of the best lines in the Rise of Skywalker, or best interactions, is thousands and thousands of ships show up to aid the Resistance against the Final Order, and I think it's Admiral Pride says, like,
where did they get all these fighter craft? They have no navy.
It's not a navy, sir. It's just people.
It's very Dunkirk. Like, yeah,
it's like, well, I don't know. They don't have that. It's just people who care.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
People like on their personal ships. It's not.
Like, that
it's
doesn't
not
make
a
any
navy.
sense. Like,
people looking out for other people. What?
What world are they living in?
Rebels is awesome. Everyone should watch it.
Definitely.
Fantastic storytelling. Ezra can talk to animals. What more do you want?
Nothing.
It's Aladdin,
we want
but like
more
with the
of it.
Snow White ability to communicate with animals.
Yeah.
Yes. See, there should be singing in Rebels.
Yeah, see? Boom.
Boom. Done.
Just have Ezra in the middle of the desert go, and call the Loth-wolves in.
And the Loth bats come and swoop at his head. He's like, no, not you. Any parting thoughts? What would your elevator pitch be to someone who has never seen Rebels and you're trying to convince them to see it? Space
Aladdin and family, but not Fast and Furious family. Like
family.
Like family who like cares about each other and are willing to kill for each other
and die for each other.
Yeah. And you also have the drama queen Chopper. So yeah.
I know. So basically Space Aladdin, Space Whales.
Oh my gosh, the Space Whales.
Chopper. And yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and Callus's sideburns. Just watch for that.
Yeah, I mean, like when he goes through his whole like wolf phase, he's kind of like it looks like he's bridge line crazy, but then you're like, oh, he's actually kind of cute.
I know, it's working for me.
Like oh, okay,
it kind of works for me. Well, thank you for coming and talking Rebels with me. I know these are conversations that we've had outside of the podcast, so I appreciate
pretty much daily
rehashing them.
Yeah.
And hey, we figured out something new today with the Ahsoka perhaps surviving the battle station fight.
Yeah. Wow.
Cool. Good for us. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, baby.
Today's recording will not be available on YouTube. However, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer on the next episode, please email teatimeontatooine@gmail.com. That wraps up our show for today. This episode was edited by me with additional editing by Nick Griffith. All show artwork is designed by Krishna Shetty. Special thanks to Sam Kiefer for producing. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, review, and tell your friends. Tune in on Wednesday, July 10th for the return of the Acolyte reviews. I was out of town last week, but we're back and we have a lot of thoughts. You can find me at Teatime on Tatooine on Instagram. I'm Anna Trumbo. And remember, the Force will be with you, always.